Hello, Siths and Sithets. This is Iron Wolf here, back again, attempting to do yet another Resistance video. This time around, I totally screwed up the audio, so I'm recording this later, and hopefully I'll be able to time it fairly well. I want to go ahead and show you just what kind of crap my Resistance team is. The answer is it's incredibly crappy. And today we're going to make sure that you understand that by going through their stats. They're all Gear 8. This is Finn. Finn has 145 speed and 26.35% potency, so quite low. Our BB-8 is next up. BB-8 has 201 speed, 20.31% potency. Next up is Poe, our wonderful Poe. He has 216 speed and 37.64% potency. And moving right along, we go to our Resistance Trooper, who has a whopping 169 speed and 35.27% potency. And finally, Resistance Pilot, with an incredibly slow 127 speed and 52.41% potency. So as you can see, my Resistance team is complete crap. They are not well modded, they are not well geared, and I would not recommend using them like this for anything other than territory battles or galactic war. For AAT, you would actually need to have some potency on them. In addition, the only reason I can get away with such low potency is because I am using BB-8. If you were not using BB-8 and substituting R2 or Rey, you would actually have to mod your Resistance squads so that they have some reasonable number of potency, as opposed to mine, who have crap. So moving right along, we get into the battle, and as I've said in previous attempts at this video, the main thing is to get secret intel on all of your characters. Luckily here I actually got it on Poe right from the start. Secret intel gives him 50% potency, so instead of a crappy number like he had before, he ends up in the 80s. BB-8 spends all of his time putting secret intel out and making sure that my guys can actually expose people. As you can see, I am spreading my damage around and making sure that I get exposes on multiple targets. To be sure, when you first start this, the key is to actually trigger the exposes. Spreading is great, but if you're not triggering exposes, your guys are not getting TM and you're not going to get to go to again before the enemy, which for a Gear 8 squad like mine means you die. So you may want to make sure that in addition to spreading them around as much as possible, you're also triggering at least 3 or 4 exposes every turn so that your guys get enough TM that they get another turn before the enemy does. So here I've reached that sweet spot where I've got enough exposes on the enemy team and I can start picking them off. I'm doing so very slowly and one by one because I don't want to leave anybody with really high health and not be able to land exposes on them. The more people I've got out there, the more exposes land, the more chances I have to try and finish off the bad guys. So the other thing to keep in mind is as you're finishing them off, it's generally a good idea to leave somebody who has lots and lots of exposes on them, like that probe droid, for last, because that resets all my guys' TM so that they all have 100% going into the next battle. We didn't have anybody special in the last wave. In this wave, we have a Snowtrooper Commander. Snowtrooper Commanders, you generally want to target them with Poe's Taunt, because that will place the buff immunity on them. And for whatever reason, your Snowtrooper Commander, 9 times out of 10, if he has buff immunity on himself, will attempt to buff himself, thereby preventing the taunt and protection up from actually landing on anyone. Now, occasionally they'll, attempt to buff somebody else, so you'll notice that every time I taunt with Poe, I try and put buff immunity on a different target and spread that around as much as well. What I don't want to have happen is I don't want to get into a situation where I've got one guy who has taunt and lots of health, and then I'm stuck trying to get exposes landing on him and unable to take advantage of the exposes I've spread all over the place. As you can see, my plan worked, and the commander, when he lost his health, he didn't put a buff on somebody. It was either blocked on himself or one of the other two. That was actually a mistake right there. I killed a guy who had 3 exposes. I really should have killed the other ones first, but you know, sometimes we make mistakes. So each one of these tends to go the same as the one before. Usually the most difficult one is the first one where you're trying to get it set up. I was talking with Ugg the other day, and as a suggestion for how to practice this, attempting to use your crappy resistance team in Galactic War works really well. It gives you a way to practice spreading the exposes around and yet making sure that you're triggering them enough to be able to proceed without doing it in a territory battle where you get one shot and that's it. So you'll see, like I said before, I'm just spreading them around, trying to make sure that I keep my TM up, but still but still spread the exposes enough so that I don't end up with one guy and a ton of health. Again, I made sure that the Snowtrooper commander got the buff immunity as soon as possible, and when he went under full health, I didn't, get a taunt on anyone or get protection up, put on someone, which is good. Again, a lot of the using a really crappy version of the resistance team, a lot of it depends on making sure that you can take advantage of how many people there are on the board. Now right here I hesitate, and the reason I'm hesitating is because there are only 3 exposes and 2 people. So using Poe's taunt, I need 4 exposes to get it back around again, and there are only 3, and there's a good chance I wouldn't actually be able to. So instead I just used Poe and shot him and did the safe route. It's enough to get his TM back up, but it wouldn't have been enough to get his taunt available again. So now we just start again and make sure we hit some exposes, and we hit the Snowtrooper because we hate Snowtroopers really badly. Finn is a fun one. He's actually one of your more useful tools when you're doing this with an undergeared, undermodded squad. His stun when he on his special is very useful. Unfortunately, during this video, I never actually ran into any elite snowtroopers, but in general, with an elite snowtrooper, you do not want to shoot them with anybody until you've had a chance to shoot them with Finn's secret intel buff up, if at all possible. Generally speaking, if you don't do that, the elite snowtroopers will counter, and they will cause other people to counter, and for a low gear team like this, being countered by a bunch of phase 6 imperial badasses is very bad. So you want to try and make sure that you do that with Finn, and if at all possible, Finn has secret intel on before you do it, just to maximize his chances of actually stunning. It is possible to recover even if that doesn't happen, just because they will regen protection as they're triggering these exposes, but it can be very scary. So again, you'll notice that I try and save Illuminated Destiny for the start of each wave, just to get as many exposes out there as quickly as possible. It's generally a good plan to have that available right at the beginning. I do occasionally debate with myself whether that is more useful or getting secret intel out is more useful, but it seems like all of the Empire characters have low tenacity, so even with my crappy potency stats and no secret intel buff, I can usually manage to get a few exposes out there. So it seems to work out better overall. You'll notice I'm having a problem here where exposes just are not sticking as much as I want them to, and as a result I'm going to use the failsafe button because it's just not happening. My guys aren't getting enough TM. See that little ghost in the back there, he's not cooperating. So at some point here I'm going to say to hell with it and just use my blow them all up button. one droid that still has explosives. I could keep going with this, but I decided that it didn't really matter, and I just used the explode them button. There you go. So now we're on the final encounter. Final encounter works the same as the others. I've got 2 Skull Snowtrooper commanders. I'm not going to worry about them too much. I'm just going to make sure that I get the buff immunity on them as soon as possible. Again, Illuminated Destiny to throw some exposes out there, get the turn meter chugging along. Unfortunately, Poe's taunt was not up because we didn't have enough exposes happening, but we got him back around again, got the buff immunity on the other Snowtrooper commander, and then we just keep shooting off the exposes. So again, there's nothing really hard about doing this. You don't really require a whole lot of gear, as you saw. You don't require great mods. It's one of the very few parts of the game where you can just you can do it with whatever, and you don't have to put a lot of effort in. You do, however, have to keep in mind the various things that I've been talking about. One, you need to trigger enough exposes to get your guys 100% TM again. 2, you want to try and spread the damage around as much as possible so that you're not focusing on one guy at the end who has lots and lots of health. 3, you need to be careful of the elite snowtroopers and the elite snowtrooper commanders as much as possible. And I think those are the major points. Galactic War is a good way to test it. You need to try and be aware of your exposes and cooldowns. Anyway, so that's the video. As you can see, it is eminently possible. It does take a little bit of practice. I highly recommend Galactic War as a place to practice. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned something useful. Thank you, and thanks for watching, and y'all have a wonderful day.